Oh, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshini Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayani Amba Tvam Anusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangha Kramopanishadai Gayanti Yam Samga Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya namaha. Om Shri Saraswati namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. So in this most beautiful 13th chapter, which is the essence of the Upanishads, the highest teaching of the Bhagavad Gita we find in this chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna started with telling us what is Kshetra and Kshetrajnam, what is the field and who is the knower of the field. Bhagavan says he himself is the knower. And then we heard about how this knowledge can be known. So what is the means of knowing this knowledge? And Bhagavan calls that jnanam, the means, and that is the values that we have to practice. So one who practices these values sincerely, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shanti, rajvam, etc., lack of ego, lack of pretentiousness, compassion, kindness, non-violence, is ready for this knowledge. So you cannot say I've studied the Bhagavad Gita, but unless I practice these values, bring them into my life, the knowledge will not stay. So the mind has to be purified by practicing these values. And then Bhagavan started these difficult shlokas from 13 to 18, which tell us about the nature of Neyam, that which is to be known, that which we all have to reach. And he uses the method of contradiction, contradictory statements to make the intellect think, what is this, which cannot be described in words, but only can be indicated by these messages. So he says it is neither sat nor asat. It is neither known nor unknown, because both are concepts of the intellect. He says all senses belong to this consciousness, but itself it has no senses. So it works through all senses. All senses are illumined by that consciousness, but this consciousness that we call Brahman or the supreme reality itself has no senses. And it says it appears divided, but actually is divisionless, just as space appears divided in this room and in the part and so on, but actually is divisionless. So this consciousness is subtler than even space, so cannot be divided, but appears to be divided in you and me and animals, birds, plants. It appears divided, but actually it is one. In fact, nothing else exists because Brahman alone is appearing as all of this. And then he says that it is the supporter of all of us and it should be known. It is Neyam. It has to be known. We don't have any choice that I don't need to study all these. I'll just sit down and just chant the Lord's name. That's very good. But when you chant with knowledge of who is this Bhagwan I am worshipping, then it is easier to get closer to this Lord, whom right now we think of as somebody far away, maybe in some future life, maybe in next life. But a wise person knows that it is closest. That's what Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji says. For an ignorant one, Durastham, it is far away, but for a wise person, it is Antike, it is right here, it is within me, and that is the truth. But we somehow think that in some future life, in some future time, I will reach it. But the wise person tells us it is here because it is you. It is we ourselves, our own true nature. So it cannot be far away. It cannot be something to reach in the future, but it is something here and now. So this is in brief. Also Bhagwan says that it is, this consciousness is Brahmaji, Bhagwan Vishnu and Lord Shiva. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, all are manifestations, and this whole universe emerges from that, is sustained by that, and merges back into that. So you and I all came from that as an appearance. In reality, we are that. We did not come anywhere. We did not go anywhere. We just appeared, just as a movie appears on a screen but has no reality. So this world appears on that consciousness and it is to be known. So it is the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. And if it is my source, then I have to know it. That Neyam, it must be known. And that's why Bhagwan, out of his compassion, has given us these 6 shlokas from 13 to 18 to indicate the nature of that reality and how we can know it. So this is basically what we have covered so far. Today we are going to do the last shloka of this particular section, the 18th shloka, which will further describe the nature of this reality. Again, the words are complex, somewhat difficult to understand. I'll try my best to make them simple. And then what is the benefit of knowing this knowledge? If I know who Brahman is, how will it help me? So these 2 shlokas will cover. So we'll start with chapter 13, shloka number 18. Jyotishamapi tajyotihi.
Jyotishamapi tajyotihi.
Tamasah paramuchyate.
Tamasah paramuchyate.
Jnanam nyeyam jnanagamyam.
Jnanam nyeyam jnanagamyam.
Hridi sarvasya vishtitam.
Hridhi sarvasya vishtitam.
All together. Jyotishamapi tajyotihi. Tamasah paramuchyate. Jnanam nyeyam jnanagamyam. Hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Most beautiful description of that reality. Jyotisham api. Jyotisham is the sixth case. Of all forms, api, it is also tat jyotihi. That consciousness is the jyoti of all jyotis. It is the light of all lights. So what is this light? We will talk about. And it is said very beautifully, tamasa paramuchyate. It is tamasa is darkness. Param means here means beyond, higher, beyond uchyate is said to be. So Bhagavan is quoting the rishis that he says, they say that it is said to be by them, it is light of lights and beyond all darkness. Jo tamasa paramuchyate. And what is this knowledge? So Bhagavan again says it is jnanam. It is the knowledge. And we have talked about that. We'll just briefly summarize what is jnanam. And then it is neyam. It is to be known. It must be known. How am I to know that, Bhagavan? You say it is to be known. He says jnana gamyam. Through knowledge alone, you will reach that knowledge. So knowledge alone will take you to that highest knowledge. So what it means is that the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, this worldly knowledge, which is the spiritual knowledge, will take us to that which is beyond all knowledges. So the knowledge will point us how to go beyond all teachings, where even the scriptures by the wise person need to be one does not need to hold on to the scriptures, but one has to go beyond where the scriptures are indicating. Just as the staircase will take us to the second floor, but then I have to leave the staircase to go to the second floor. I cannot hold on to it. So the scriptures are like that staircase. It is jnana gamyam. He said, then where am I to find it? So Bhagavan says, Hridi sarvasya. In the heart of all. Sarvasya means of all, the heart. Vishtitam, it is stationed in the heart of all. So where do I find it? In my heart. Where else? Very easy, right? So let us see how easy it is. So the first word is this light of all lights, and that is very confusing. For a beginner or for most of us, we think that there will be some shining light that I will see. And so our idea of light is a tube light or a bulb or a lamp or maybe the sun or the moon. So we think it is some kind of light like that, which I will see it. And so that is why that is the misunderstanding. But when it says the light of all lights, what Bhagavan means is it is the light of knowledge, the light of understanding. Just as we say, I don't understand this subject, throw some light on it. Does not mean throw some light, does not mean I take a flashlight and shine it, but I explain it. You say, oh, now I see. So when I see, it does not mean I see the light, but I understand this topic. So when we say it is the light of all lights, it has been explained in very beautifully in Dakshinamurti Stotram in the 4th shloka, where it says that there is the light of consciousness that is within everybody, all living beings. It is inside and outside both, but within us, it functions as the light of knowledge. That's why it is said it functions as consciousness. Consciousness means light. So it is this consciousness that rides, first of all, illumines the mind. So the mind and intellect are illumined by this light of consciousness. Illumine means they are given life, because the human body, the mind and intellect is inert. Only when the light of consciousness is functioning through this mind and intellect, that mind and intellect get energized, get enlivened. So riding on the mind and intellect, then it goes out through the eyes to reveal the world of objects. So the eyes are also light. because the eyes are what reveals objects to me. The mind is also light because the mind reveals what the eyes are seeing. So to give an example, say I walk into a dark room and I can't see anything. And so I turn on the light or I use a flashlight, so there is no power. The moment the light shines on the objects, the eyes immediately can see the object. So the eyes can see the object because the light of consciousness is shining through the mind, through the eyes, and illumining all sights, not only dark room, but even the mountains, the oceans, the birds, the trees, even the sun is known to me only if the light is there, if I am conscious, if my eyes are there. If I don't have eyes, even the sunlight I cannot see. So all sights are illumined by eyes through the enlivening process of the consciousness, even sounds. Okay, any sound I hear, what happens? My ears can perceive the sound only if the light of consciousness is shining through the mind, through the ears, illumining all the sounds. So the world of sound is illumined also by this light of consciousness, just as the world of form. How about taste? The same thing. The tongue can only taste when I am alive. That's why when a person is dead, we put Ganga Jal on his tongue, but he is not able to swallow it. So all tastes, all smells, all touches, everything I touch, everything is revealed to me by that light of consciousness. So then people misunderstand, they will sit down and say, in meditation, I should see some light. And then they will start sitting in meditation. And should I see white light or blue light or yellow light or red light? And then people write books, in meditation, I saw that light. And they publish it. And there are thousands of people who buy those books and then start looking for a light. There will be some light of wisdom shining. Light is just your understanding that you are consciousness. And then another person will come and say, Swamiji, I can hear light, but my friend, he hears ghungru, he hears sounds. Which is better? Should I be listening for ghungru sound or should I be seeing a blue light? So all these kinds of theories are there but one has to understand it is that because of which all lights are known. That's why in when we do the arti, we chant na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoya magnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. So na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam means the sun, the moon, even lightning, nema vidyuto bhanti, none of them can reach that. The light of consciousness cannot be illumined. So this sun or moon cannot illumine that because the sun and moon belongs to this world and that is beyond this world. So whether even the lightning cannot. So how do you think this little lamp when I'm doing arti will illumine that? No, the lamp will not illumine, but the lamp will tell me that tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. It is because of that alone that everything is shining. The sun is shining, the moon, the stars, the lightning, and even this lamp. And tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. And everything that we see alive is illumined by that. All humans, birds, plants, animals, fish, everything that is alive is illumined by that light of consciousness. What it means, it is energized or it is given life, sentience. See, again, Bhagavan in the 15th chapter, he says the same thing, na tad bhasayate suryaha, na shashanko na pavakaha. So same thing, that the sun and the moon and the fire cannot illumine. Tad dham paramam mama, Bhagavan says, my param dham cannot be illumined by any of these, but yat gatvana nivartante. Once you reach that, once you understand that, then you no longer come back to this world of ignorance. So then people ask, It is shloka number 18 in chapter 13. I just got a message. So in chapter 13, it is shloka number 18. You may please look it up. So then people ask, is it even there? You know, you say Brahman cannot be seen from the eyes, cannot be heard, cannot be smelled, tasted, touched, cannot be known from the mind, cannot be known from the intellect, cannot be described. So maybe it's not even there. How can you say there is something which cannot be known, which cannot be described, which cannot be seen? Then how do I know it is there? And children always ask, you know, if there is God, why can't we see him? Adults also ask. So the question is that, can you see your eyes? You know, and you say in the mirror, but say without a mirror, can I, right now, can you see your eyes? No. But the fact that you are able to see me and everybody else on the screen means you have eyes, right? If you didn't have eyes, you wouldn't be able to see. So the presence of sight shows that I have eyes, or that the fact that you are listening means I have ears. Yeah, my eyes may not be functioning very well. I may need glasses, or I may have cataracts, or my hearing may not go down. I may need hearing aids. But the fact that I am able to see, the fact that I am able to hear means I have eyes, means I have ears. So similarly, the fact that I am able to walk, talk, breathe, see, hear, smell, taste, touch means there is God within me. There is consciousness within me. Otherwise, I would not be able to do any of those. None of those things I would be able to do. So anytime you are doing anything, pay a little bit of attention to God within me, consciousness within me, because of which I am able to do this. So that a constant part of your attention should be on Bhagwan within, the consciousness within, Brahman, that is not only within me, but within all. So what that does is creates this sense of oneness, that there is one consciousness that is in everybody, and everybody is that. You know, I am all and they are all me. That's all the Mahatmas teach us, that they are all one. One alone is presenting as many. And what they say is that if you do not know it, you will remain miserable. You will remain sorrowful. Until you know that you are of the nature of happiness, you will always be looking for happiness outside. And you can never find permanent happiness outside. Temporarily, you may find in something you really wanted. You wanted to buy a new car and you got it. Or you wanted a new house or a new piece of jewelry or a new job or something. It will give you temporary joy, but then the joy will wear off. So if you truly want to be happy, you have to know who you really are. It's like a person has everything and he's still miserable. Why? Because there is never enough. He wants more and more. So the miseries can only be solved if I know my true identity. It's not that it's going to create a new identity. You know, we think that right now I am Jiva, then I will become Brahman. No, it is not becoming Brahman. It is knowing I am Brahman. So it is reaffirming my true identity. It is not that I will somehow, sometime in the future experience Brahman somewhere outside in my meditation. All you will experience is that which I was thinking to be this ignorant Jiva called Anil or Harsha or Lata, but that is in fact nothing but Brahman and Brahman alone. So that is the knowledge that a person gets. So then people say, oh, he's a Brahma Gyani. Now for another person, we can say it, but suppose the person starts saying, I am Gyani or I am Brahma Gyani. Is he a Gyani?
No.
No, he's Agyani. Because if he says, I am Brahma Gyani, the moment he says, you know, I am 108, 1008, I am Brahma Jnani, then you immediately say he's Ajnani, because Brahman cannot be known as an object. Brahman is me. So he has to say, I am Brahman. Others may say, oh, he's a Brahma Jnani, he's a great, knower, which is okay. But for a true person, if he says, I am a Jnani or I am Brahma Jnani, he's actually Ajnani, because Brahman cannot be known. Brahman is me. So I am Brahman, that is. So, for conversational purpose, you may say, okay, I am on the path of knowing Brahman or reaching Brahman, but that is on the path. But once you reach, you understand Brahman is me, is not separate from me. So what we think that it is one more title. I used to be an engineer, right? So then I become manager, and I was working for Google. Now I'm working for Microsoft, or I'm working for Chevron. Then I go to Texaco. So I change my titles, or I change my name. Like I used to be a Karma Yogi, then I became a Bhakta of God. Then I want to become a Jnani. So it is okay. But when you become a Jnani, you realize I am not a Jnani. I am Jnanam. I am Nayam. I am that which I was trying to know. So it's not a change of title. It is knowing who I really am. So that is God. All other titles you can change. I was a Karma Yogi, then I became a Bhakta, then I became a great Bhakta. All those are good because you have this distance between God and me. But the final understanding is God is with me at all times. So it is not a change of title. It is reaffirming the title I already had. Is that clear? I tried to make it clear. Then it says it is beyond darkness, tamasah param uchyate. What does it mean by beyond darkness? There are two meanings. One is, in that there is no darkness. For example, you ask the sun, Mr. Sun, do you know what is darkness? He says, no, I don't know. I have never seen darkness. In the sun, there cannot be darkness. Or if you ask the sun, do you know what is night? Sun says, I'm sorry, I have never seen night. So in the sun, there cannot be darkness, right? It is ever illumining. So also in this consciousness, there can never be ignorance. I not knowing my nature as consciousness can be ignorant. I can be ignorant, but this consciousness does not know ignorance. Other meaning of tamasah paramuchyate is that which is the knower of darkness. So for example, I know right now I am in a lighted room, right? Now suppose the lights get turned off and I'm in a dark room and somebody asks me, are you there? I don't say, wait a minute, let me turn on the light to see I am there. No, I know I am there. Even in a dark room where I cannot see myself, I know I am there. So that which is the knower of light and the knower of darkness, it's also illumines darkness. That is my nature. So that is called tamasah paramuchyate. Then Bhagavan says it is jnanam. Jnanam is the values which we talked about, the 20 values I must practice. And it is the nayam. So whatever we said from 13th to 18th shlokas about the nature of this consciousness, I must know it. And jnana gamyam, and it must be known through knowledge. So what do we mean by knowing it through knowledge? What they mean is that it should be the path taken by knowledge to reach that. And I was thinking about an example, like those of you who have gone to San Francisco on the 580, there is the fast track, right? The left lane is fast track, which you see the people going full speed, and in the other 3 lanes in rush hours, they are stuck. You know, in rush hour, there's a traffic jam, and then you are trying to change from one lane to the other. And what the other person does in 15 minutes, it takes you 2 hours. So similarly, and I try to keep changing my lane, thinking that this lane will go faster, and the lane I change into always is slower, and the other one is faster. That's everybody's experience. So what they are saying that in life, one should go with the fast track. And what is the fast track? The sadhan chatushtaya. Everybody knows what is sadhan chatushtaya. Anybody does not know? I can list them. Okay, so a couple of people are saying no. So sadhan chatushtaya, the four, please write them down. Four qualities that a seeker must have. One is viveka. Viveka means the discrimination, the right understanding of what is right, what is wrong, what is real, what is unreal, what is my goal. So viveka I must have. Second is vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from the unreal and holding on to the real. Detach from the world and hold on to God. That is the second, vivek vairagya. Third is called Shat Sampatti, the 6 qualities which are all together lumped as third, and that is Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhan. Shama is control of the mind, Dama is control of the senses, Uparati is withdrawal from the unreal, Titiksha is the ability to withstand life's problems. Shraddha is faith in the teacher and the scriptures, and Samadhan is firm abidance in this knowledge. So Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhan. So these 6 qualities are the third one called Shat Sampatti. And the last one is Mumukshutvam, the intense desire for liberation. So one who has this Vivek, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshutvam is said to be on the fast track. And that is what we have to decide, that God is not somebody I have to reach, but it is here and now. So give up this idea that in some future birth I will reach him. I also used to have this idea that in my next life I want to be a good singer and I want to be a woman. Then after listening to these Mahatmas, I understand why singer, because whatever even a singer or dancer or musician is, all of this world anyway, is unreal anyway. And being a man or a woman is just the body structure, but actually I am Brahman. So once you understand that, then there is no need for any other accomplishments. That's why they say, give up the desire for anything else I want to experience. I only want to know Brahman. I want to know know Brahman as I am Brahman. So Brahman is not something in somewhere I have to reach, but it is here and now itself. And Bhagavan says it is Hridhi Sarvasya Dishthitam. It is in the heart of all of us. What do we mean by heart? Gurudev very beautifully explains in his commentary. He says Hridhi means in the heart where all the good qualities reside, where love, kindness, compassion. That's why when you're in the presence of the saints, you feel so much love and kindness because God is manifesting in them. So in my heart where all these good qualities reside, Gurudev says that in your meditation, when you experience that presence of that, then it is easy to see the whole universe as that. See again does not mean visibly see, but to get the knowledge that Isha Vasyam Idagam Sarvam. This whole universe is nothing but that one consciousness, which is covered in Isha Vasya Upanishad. So it is in my heart, and when I experience, Gurudev says, just as you experience 1 grain of salt, you know all the salt in the world, or you taste a drop of ocean, you know all the ocean. So once the experience of consciousness as I becomes clear, then it is, you see the universal consciousness. So clear understanding of what I am talking should be there. Talking about clear understanding, this husband comes home and tells the wife, let's play a game. So she says, what? He says, you stand in the middle of the room. If I say country, you run to the right side. And if I say bird, you run to the left side. And if you run to the wrong side, I get half your income. Both of them were working. I get half your income to spend as I want this month. She said, that's fine. I also want the same thing. He says, okay. She says, if I say country, you run to the right side. If I say bird, you run to the left side. And if you run to the wrong side, I get half your income. He says, fine, fine. So she says, okay, I go first. He says, okay. So she says, turkey. So since 4 hours, he's standing in the middle of the room, he doesn't know whether she means country or she means bird. And so he has not moved ever since then. So they say never underestimate feminine intelligence. Because so the clear understanding of what I am asking should be known. So that is the essence of this shloka, that it is the light of knowledge and should be clearly known and as me, and it is in my heart. So now we'll go to the concluding of this shloka, the 19th one, that what is the summary of this particular shloka and what is the benefit of knowing that. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam.
Iti kshetram tatha jnanam.
Neyam choktam samasataha.
Nyeyam choktam samasataha.
Madbhakta etad vijñāya.
Madbhakta etat vikyaya.
Madbhavayopapadyate.
Madbhavayopapadyate.
Together. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam. Neyam choktam samasataha. Madbhakta etat vijñāya. Madbhavayopapadyate. So iti, thus. So Bhagavan is summarizing after the 6 shlokas, which he has told us about his nature. It says, now I am summarizing iti kshetram. Kshetram means the field, which we already said, this body and the whole universe is the field. Tatha jnanam, and the knowledge. That is the 20 values. And neyam, the what is to be known, I have already explained to you in these 6, so far in these 18 shlokas. Cha uktam. Uktam means has been said by me. Bhagavan says, samasataha is a passive voice. He says, has been said by me. Samasataha. Briefly, I have explained to you all of these because Arjuna had asked the question. So out of 6, 4 Bhagavan has already explained. And he's in summary, he says, Mad Bhakta, and my devotee, etat vijñāya, having known this, my devotee, what happens to him? What is the benefit of studying this knowledge? Mat bhavaya, to my nature, upapadyate, reaches, attains. So comes to me, becomes one with me. So if we know this knowledge, if we sincerely practice it, we reach Bhagavan, we know Bhagavan, we become one with Bhagavan. That's what we see that Kshetram, we already said, this body is the field and this whole world is the field. Jnanam is the 20 values that one should practice, and Neyam is what we have heard in these 6 shlokas from 13 to 18. And Brahman represents the fullness of all these values. That's why in Brahman there is total compassion, there is total forgiveness. We keep making all the mistakes, we keep doing all the wrong things, and Bhagavan never runs out of patience, never runs out of forgiveness, never writes us off. He says, no matter how many sins you have committed, if you come to me, sadhu vevar samantavya. He says, even a person who comes to me, no matter api chet su duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak, sadhu reva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. He says, no matter how many wrong things you have done, but if you start remembering me with full love, I consider you a sadhu. I am ready to accept you. I am ready to hold on to you, hug you, embrace you. So Bhagavan says, so Bhagavan is the fullness of compassion, love, forgiveness, all these values, ahimsa, and, amanitvam, adambitvam. Bhagwan has done so much, but never shows off, just stays in the background and everything happens. But you and I, we do a small thing and we stay, see what I have done. See how much I have accomplished. He said, be humble like Bhagwan. Don't need to brag. So the point is that as I am in the world, I keep doing my work, but do it as a servant of God, not with arrogance that I am Brahman. Brahman is the higher nature, but as an individual, whatever job I have done, do it with full value and keep practicing those 20 values. Have humility, have lack of ego, have compassion, have forgiveness, and surrender all my work to God. But inside have this knowledge that God is not far away. God is with me. So surrender and becoming an instrument of God is very important, so that the ego does not come that I am doing something, God is functioning through me. That is very important. Any accomplishment, give the credit to God, and complete surrender. This reminds me of a beautiful story. It's a little long story, but it's very nice. It's worth repeating. Some of you may have heard it. There was this Brahmin called Ajamil. It is in the Bhagavad. It is a Bhagavad story, very beautiful story. Ajamil was a Brahmin and very pious, very religious, very spiritual. From childhood, he was memorizing all the shlokas. He was born in a Brahmin family. His father and mother taught him, and so he was chanting beautifully, studying the Vedas. And he had his thread ceremony, and he got married to a Brahmin lady. And he was himself not only pious, but very knowledgeable. He studied the scriptures and he regularly prayed to Bhagwan, did all the pujas. He went to the temple and did whatever was required. And he was going along very well. And it so happened one time that his father said, please go to the forest to bring some flowers for the puja. And so he went to the forest. On his way back, he saw a prostitute with a drunk man, and they were embracing, in the forest near a tree. They didn't think anybody was watching, and he saw them. And he came home, but his mind was still in that, because he had never seen, something like that. I mean, he was married, but he had the beauty of that prostitute kept on lingering in his mind, and the lust started coming and desire started coming, and he couldn't concentrate on his puja, nothing. And next morning he went back and he found that girl, the prostitute, and he asked her, can I live with you? Can I be with you? And she said yes. And so he started living with this lady and even left his wife. And all his money, slowly he started giving to her, and he lived with her for many, many years. And he had actually 10 children from her. And he not only when his money finished, he started lying, he started cheating, he started stealing, because he had to support his new wife and, not wife, he didn't marry her, but this girl had 10 children. But the youngest child, the boy whom he loved the most, he named him Narayana. For some reason, he named him Narayana. We name our children Krishna and Ram and, so on. So he named him Narayana. And that's the child he loved the most. So all the time he would be thinking about his son Narayana, and he would be calling him, holding him, letting him sit in his lap. So he was very dear. Narayana was the most dear to him. So and by now he had gotten old. So, it was time for him to go. And because he had done so much tapas and so much puja and all, he had some vision, and he saw 3 evil looking people coming, and they were the Yamadutas, the men of Yamaraj, and they had come to take him to hell. Because he had been doing all those bad things for so many years. And they said, we are going to take him to hell. And he saw them out of fear, and he just thought of his son. He said, I'm going to leave my son. He said, Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. Immediately he said it 3 times. I don't want to leave Narayana. but not knowing that it is, I mean, he knew that it is Vishnu's name, but he wasn't chanting it as Vishnu's name. He was chanting for his son. But it is said that whatever you say as the last thought before death, you reach. So if you say Narayana, you will reach to Narayana. Immediately, three very beautiful angels came, and they were dutas of Vishnu, and they told the Yamadutas, you cannot take him. They said, why? He has been evil all these years. He has been lying, cheating. Said, no, but he chanted the name of Vishnu with faith. And he said, but no, he chanted the name of his son. He said, doesn't matter. If he chanted Bhagwan Vishnu's name, we have come and we are going to take him to heaven. And so they told the three evil, I mean, not evil, but the messengers of Yamaraj to go. But interestingly, because he had done so much puja, even in that, he was aware of this whole thing. He saw the three Yamadutas, he saw the three messengers of Vishnu, and he came back to life and he was fine. He became okay. And the messengers of Vishnu said, you are fine, we are leaving. When it's time for you to go, we will come and take you. And he changed his life. He said, I have got a new opportunity now to remember God and where I was in all these wrong things. I started out so well as a Brahmin, and then I became this, evil monster and all. So he's left everything. He left his wife, left his children, went to Ganga Ji at Haridwar, sat in a Vishnu temple, and there he would serve and clean the temple and clean all the dirty dishes of the devotees, whatever, clean the bathrooms, whatever job was required. But constantly he remembered Bhagwan. So in that temple, he lived for many years, remembering Bhagwan, serving Bhagwan, and seeing Bhagwan in everybody. So it is said that after that many years, his mind was so pure that he became one with Bhagwan. And then when it was time for him to drop his body, the same three the messengers of Vishnu came in a golden chariot in a plane, and he got there and went to Vaikuntha. So the point is that if you want to remember Bhagwan at the time of death, you have to remember him now. Otherwise, nahi aayenge. One is, of course, you name your children, but you don't even remember. So they say, remember God as often as you can. Om Namah Shivaya, Shri Krishna, Sharnam Mama, Om, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Whatever your mantra is, chant it constantly. Remember God. Don't do it mechanically, but visualize God's form, visualize his qualities, and surrender all activities to him. That's why we say, Kayena Vacha Manasendriyeva Buddhyatmanava Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yat Yat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami. Whatever I do with my body, with my mind, with my sense organs, with my hands, with my feet, whatever I do, I surrender it to Lord Vishnu. So yat yat, whatever I do, at any time, remember God and work through him. That's why Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna says, after many, many lifetimes, a person approaches me and comes to me and reaches me. So we are fortunate, we are blessed that we have the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and we have Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda who has interpreted it for us, and all these acharyas of Chinmaya mission who share that knowledge with us. So we are blessed. So that is what we have to see. Gyanvan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti. This whole universe is Vasudeva. This whole universe is Krishna, or whole universe is Vishnu, or whole universe is Shiva. So seeing that one in all, that is why in Isha Vasya Mitagam Sarvam Yat Kinchit Jagat Chan Jagat, Isha Vasya Upanishad starts with that. Actually, we will be starting study of Isha Vasya Upanishad on Tuesday. And if anybody wishes to log in, it will be every Tuesday, 12:30 to 1:30 on the same login. So we will be starting Isha Vasya, which shows that there is one God in everybody. And that is what it is said in Narayan Upanishad also. All the Upanishads, all the teachings say, Antar Bahishcha Tat Sarvam Vyapta Narayana Tishtati. This Bhagwan Narayana, this Lord, this consciousness, what we call as Brahman, what we call as Father in heaven, what you call as Allah, what you call as consciousness, is in and out, everywhere, within me, outside me, here, there, past, present, future. There is no time. It is here and now, and it is always there. So that's what they say. Don't think that God will be somewhere in the future, at some future time, some future birth. I have to know it now. All I have to do is understand this knowledge clearly. That's why they say that Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. We just studied in Dakshinamurti Stotram. Shravana means understand clearly what is indicated in the teachings. One is what we are listening, but what the teachings indicate, that clear understanding is called Shravana. So tuning our mind with the teacher, that's why we say read the commentary of Puja Gurudev, so that we can tune our mind with the teacher and clearly understand what is meant by the scriptures. So Shravana is very important, and listening, the Shravana does not only mean listening, also means reading. Reading is also Shravana. That's why you can read the books, you can listen. Now on YouTube, you can go to Chinmaya channel and you can get talks by all the acharyas on any topic, any Upanishad, any chapter of Bhagavad Gita, they're all available. So listening can be either audio or by seeing by eyes or being in the presence of the teacher. So that is Shravana. And then Manana is that if I have doubts, how can I be Brahman? Brahman is all powerful. I am this useless little creature, and he is everywhere. I am here. He is the creator. I am the created. Yes, as a body, mind, intellect, I am limited. But if I understand my true nature as consciousness, then all doubts get removed. So doubtlessness is very important. One should not have doubt in these teachings. That's why Bhagavan says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. Only a person who has total faith in these teachings will reach me. So one should not have doubt in the scriptures. If it is written by the scriptures, if it has been proved by Mahatmas over thousands of years. So these Upanishads were not composed last year or 2000 years ago, thousands of years ago, and has been reinforced by several Mahatmas, great rishis, great scholars, all have come to that same conclusion. Just as, a scientific theory, you don't accept it just like that. It has to be, if Einstein said it, or if Galileo said it, or if some Oppenheimer, some great scientist said it, then you agree. So all these great rishis have given us this knowledge, so I should have no doubt. And then we sit and contemplate upon this and meditate upon it, that I am. So this will remove the viparit bhavna. I have this false understanding that I am this jiva, I am this body, and then all our effort is spent to improve this body, polish this body, improve it, get more, clothes for it, a better house for it, a better car. So we keep taking, not that one should not take care of the body, but take care of the body as an instrument, not that the body is me or this jiva is me. So that viparit bhavna is removed by abiding in this knowledge called nididhyasanam. And the fourth one, Shankaracharya says, is Sankirtanam. Share this knowledge with others. So if you have this knowledge and there is somebody whom you can share it with, share it with. So that is called Sankirtanam. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and Sankirtanam, sharing this knowledge with others. We have study groups where we meet on Wednesday evening, Thursday evening. So join the study group. So that is called the understanding of this knowledge. And once you understand that, then you understand that it is not only the worldly objects, but subject is me. because in me, I am the creator, sustainer, and destroyer, just as there is Brahmaji, Vishnu Bhagwan, and Lord Shiva. So within me, I am the creator, sustainer, destroyer. Like all thoughts emerge in me, and then the thought stays for a while and then perishes. So I am the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. Any emotion arises in me, whether it's joy, sorrow, hatred, jealousy, I am the creator, sustainer, and then it merges back into me. I am the dissolver. So as the subject, I am the creator, sustainer, destroyer. Even my body is created, sustained, and destroyed. They say every moment new cells are being created, some cells are being maintained, and others are being destroyed. That's why they say in 7 years, the entire human body is made over again. So if we have lived for, say, 70 years, then 10 times our body has been made and destroyed. So that creator, sustainer, destroyer, also I am. So that understanding is, that's what Bhagavan says, one who knows this very clearly, then mat bhavaya upapadyate, one who surrenders to me, one who comes to me, even no matter how many things we have done, like Ajamil, even though he had made so many mistakes, the day he realized that he was wrong and he changed his life, Bhagwan accepted him with open arms and came to save him. So that is what we say, that it is never too late. You know, whenever you start, it is good, but put your mind single pointedly in Bhagwan. That's what he says. One who puts his mind in me, then I lift him. Tesham aham samudharta, I become his uplifter. Mrityu samsara sagarat, from this ocean of this world, I am ever ready to. That's what he says. You just have to call me. I am ever ready. So that's the essence of these 6 shlokas, that one consciousness is pervading everything, and one who knows it becomes one with that. So here we finish this topic of Jnanam, Neyam, Kshetra, and Kshetrajnam. 4 we have covered. Next week, we'll start the other 2 that Arjuna asked, which is Purush and Prakriti. That is a new topic. So that's why I didn't want to start it today. We'll start it next week. And we'll talk about what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, and then go on to other aspects of the 13th chapter. So here we will end our talk. We have a few minutes. We welcome any questions, any comments.
I have a question. We in Hinduism explain this consciousness principle as the light, like you indicated in shloka number 18,
Right.
Jyotishamapi. How does the science relate to this light principle?
Science,
or consciousness, how does that match or differ?
right. Well, science does not go up to consciousness. Science only goes up to matter. So they say there are atoms and there are subatomic and, you know, all these quarks and, you know, all neutrinos and all the, but they do not know what is the origin. Like they'll say it started with a big bang, but
Right.
where did the energy for the big bang come? They say we don't have any answer. We'll find out in the future. But the rishis already long time ago said that there was a consciousness. In fact, it's described in our Upanishads that there was this body and this sharp light came and the light shining caused that explosion. So that's already been described in our Upanishad, that there was this ray of light. So the point is that they already were aware that there is, so they talk about life, scientists, but they think matter creates life. That means all these, when you put them together, suddenly it will create life. So like when all these atoms and molecules were put together and suddenly it created life. But it cannot happen. Like if you put together a brick and a cement and wire and can it by itself make a house? No, you can mix them for 1,000 years. You need an intelligent human being to make a house. So if a house cannot be made by itself, how can this beautiful human body be made by itself? How can this entire universe just create
There
out
has
of
to be creator.
nothing. There has to be an intelligent creator.
Intelligence.
So they think matter creates life. We say life creates matter. So that is the difference.
That's a good point. Right.
Right.
Life creates.
Life
Then
creates
cause
matter.
and
but
effect.
I know.
Yeah,
that.
Cause
sorry,
and
go ahead.
effect.
Yeah, Lata,
Cause
yeah.
and effect. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so what they say that consciousness, in the presence of consciousness, this matter, this whole world appeared like
Right.
like a drama, like a play, like a, like Vishwamitra could create a heaven, with his tapas shakti. So the power of consciousness did not create the universe, but gave the appearance of a universe.
Right. Right.
So
Like Disneyland.
so actually it is created, but it's not that the world does not exist, but does not have the same degree of reality as consciousness. Just as a dream exists, but does not have the same degree of reality as the waker, right? The dream does not have the same degree of reality as a waker when I'm waking. So similarly, this state of consciousness has a higher degree of reality. This world has a relative reality, you can call it. You can say, I see it. How come you say it does not exist?
Yeah, right.
Say
Exactly.
it is an appearance at this moment. Just as when I'm in a dream and I think the dream is real, but when I wake up, then I realize that I actually it was just an appearance. Just as this morning in my dream, I met some very famous person and I was talking to him and everything. And it went on for a long time. And then when I woke up, even then the conversation was still going on. So then I had to understand, wait, I am not with this person. It's just a dream. It is just happening. So so when you wake up to that higher state of consciousness, then you will understand this waking world is a dream. So it is created, but it is created with a lower degree of reality, you can say, just as a movie does not have the same reality as the screen. The movie looks very real. When I'm watching the movie, I get so engrossed. When the heroine is happy, I laugh. When she's sad, I cry. And when the heroine are separated, I, become miserable because I so much identify with that. We'll be talking about identification in the next shloka. But when I identify with the movie, I get so lost that I forget. Or the TV shows, these serials that keep coming week after week after week, every day, some of these, we get so identified with the characters, these soap operas. So similarly, this world is a soap opera. Watch it like a dream, like a natak. That's why Shakespeare said, this whole world is a play and we are all characters in the play. So play your part, but do not give too much importance to this world and any worldly accomplishments. Whatever I accomplish in this world, I may be the Bill Gates or I may be Jeff Bezos. None of that compares to the joy of enlightenment. Even 1,000,000,000 times cannot compare even that. That is that joy of enlightenment. So give less importance to worldly accomplishments and give more importance to spiritual accomplishment, because that is the only thing worth knowing. That's why he says it is tat neyam. It is that alone is to be known. So give importance to that, and all worldly abilities are not important. They are there. As long as I am in this body, I have to accomplish, but that is not my goal of life.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shaku, you have any question or you're
Yeah,
unmuted?
can you explain this nayam little bit? Nayam.
Okay. Nayam means that which is to be known, which I must know.
That is Brahman.
That is Brahman. That is, Bhagwan says in the 6 shlokas from 13 to 18, that it is the light of all lights. It is that because of which the sense organs function. It is that which is beyond the darkness. It is that which is neither existing or non-existing. It is that which the eyes cannot see it, but it is that because of which the eyes see. So 13 to 18 shlokas are Neyam, which Bhagwan has explained beautifully. So just reread those shlokas because they are a little bit hard. Or if you want to listen to this commentary, I think some of you do, you go to firstpower.info. First power is one word, .info. And you can listen to these shlokas again. The 13 to 18, I think they need repeated listening because the teaching is very subtle. Or you can read Puja Gurudev's commentary 13 to 18 and repeated listening. So that is Neyam from 13 to 18, the shlokas
Thank
that
you.
we covered recently. And in the 19th, Bhagwan summarizes that I have told you this, and once you have understood it, and once you surrender to me, then you reach me. So that is it. So that means Neyam is the goal and Jnanam is the path. And Jnana Gamyam, through knowledge, I should reach that. So that's why the surrender to Bhagwan and then right knowledge will take me to Neyam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati.
Yeah, Niru says Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman means knows I am Brahman. Does not again become means does not become somebody else, but gets the right knowledge.
It's like knowing that the sunrise and sunset, it actually doesn't, but we know, so we don't give importance to it. So it's like that. We know the sky is, the blueness of the sky doesn't go away, but you know that it is blue. So, it is not real. The
Right.
same way. Yeah, mirage, same thing, they give example of all this.
Right. Mirage, sunrise, sunset, they are not real. Sky is not blue. So all these appearances, one does not give importance once you have the knowledge
But
of science.
You know that it is appearance.
Right.
It is appearing as blue, but
Right.
it's not real. The same
Right.
way, knowing Brahman, you will see the world, but you will not give importance. It's not the world will disappear or
Thoda uncha bolo.
yeah, so that all will still be there, but you will know it is not real. It is just an illusion. So that is the knowledge. That is the knowledge, ultimate. That I always was that, I am that, I will always be that. I was just unnecessarily thinking that I was this jiva. That is the knowledge you can.
Yeah, thank you. And that's how you go beyond joy and sorrow.
They
Because
all
belong to this
mind,
body. Right.
to the intellect.
Yeah, joy and sorrow, heat and cold, all belong to
Yeah,
the
we have
world.
covered that many times.
Right.
All the pair of opposites are for this transactional reality. As long as you identify with the body, it is there.
ॐ न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चन्द्रतारकम् नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयमग्निः तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वम् तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरती सद्गुरु की चरणों में उनके शांति समाये शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए पाप ताप संताप हरण की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की सिद्धबाड़ी की तपोभूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे। भक्त हृदय आनंद स्रोत की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की, आरती सद्गुरु की। बोलो
बोलिए श्री
भगवान श्री कृष्णचंद्र लाल की जय। ओम श्री सद्गुरु महाराज की जय। कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियेण वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hari Om. See you next Sunday.